Larry Goldberg, you mentioned in the green room as we were trying to prep this show that you've been driving
All over.
all over Florida with your family. You're down there with on a medical mission, and that you've had no interruptions, no problems, no safety interventions at all.
The
In
only intervention I've had of any nature is a mapping intervention. From time
okay,
to time, the map is not accurate. And because it's a Cybertruck, it's not very good in the parking lots or approaching the charger. So I have to, take it off FSD as I approach the chargers or as I get into the park, once I'm in the parking lot. But honestly, apart from those mapping issues, uh, no interventions. And I didn't have an intervention coming all the way to Florida. That's 1,000 miles.
right.
And then in Florida, you know, Florida is populated by Florida drivers. So you can imagine. I mean, in North Carolina, if you want to strike fear into the hearts of people, just mention the words Florida driver.
Oh, I see. I see.
They come up to the mountains and they have no idea how to drive up in the
I
mountains.
see. Yeah.
And you see people, going crazy at what they do and how they do. Anyway, so here we have a whole lot of Florida drivers. Of course, they're driving on flat land,
Yes.
so
Yes.
they do a little bit better, but not much, I will tell you, not much.
So, in addition to driving all over Florida and driving from Carolina to Florida just recently, I'm going to guess, I was thinking about this, you probably have to be in the top 10 of all Tesla drivers outside of maybe employees of Tesla in terms of the number of miles you've put on Tesla vehicles with FSD. I mean, you've
I
put on,
mean, there are some guys on X that travel, incessantly.
yeah,
There's Josh West, and there's I think the guy from the Southern California Tesla Association, I forget his name, but they drive incessantly. I'm sure they do more miles than me, but other than that, I think I'm right up there. Yeah.
that's what I would think too. So, do you keep any kind of a actual record of your disengagements compared to the number of miles you're driving?
I started doing that and I found it was too much of a hassle. I don't think it's of much moment, because it depends on how you categorize
Sure,
disengagements.
sure.
I disengage because I change my mind. I'm going to do something else. I
Right, right, right.
disengage.
That's not a disengagement.
And so I don't want to start with this whole record keeping and blah 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 blah. But I will tell you this: I have Allstate as an insurer. They're very good, by the way, outstanding, I have to say.
Mm.
Even though they were clients of mine, I have to just admit that. Um, so they track your driving and they give you discounts if you're a good driver.
Okay.
I have the maximum discount.
Maximum.
Yeah, the maximum discount. And I haven't told them I'm not driving. But that tells you,
Yes, yes.
a little bit about the quality of the driving of FSD.
Okay, so you've been doing all this driving. You know that it's really outstanding. You've just shown it to another bunch of your relatives. You've shown it to dozens and dozens of people
Yeah.
over the years. I know I can remember your conversations about showing people, and they're all shocked and amazed. Um, Yesterday night, Nicholas Gibbs and I were talking about the fact that it just makes no sense that we're not doing a massive advertising campaign on this, that we're coming to football season. It's time not necessarily to advertise the cars, advertise FSD, advertise the capability, see people being shocked and amazed by what it can do. I don't know what the ad looks like, but time to hit the football season hard with some FSD ads, and that'll sell the cars.
I haven't been a protagonist on the advertising front, but I do think that it is time. By the way, I had lunch with Nick
Oh, good. Yeah, I heard. Yes, I heard
Yeah,
that.
yeah. What a nice guy. I mean, he and Cern, just straight up great guys, great guys. Anyway, yeah, I have to agree. I have to agree. I think the value of FSD is significantly underestimated. Now, there's only a relatively small window between now and robotaxi becoming,
Right,
real.
right,
Um, it's and version 14 is about to hit the streets. I
right.
mean, 6 weeks is Elon, it could be 3 months, but that's but I think that you're right. I would just like to I think that now it's not the moment. I think the moment is after 14 is
It's
bedded
out.
down. Because I think where we are now is so good, but there are these loose ends, the parking lot, the
Mhm.
just very small loose ends. Clear that up, clean that up. And I think you could sell this, even to the Elon haters. Well, that may be a push, but by the way, everywhere I go in Florida, I'm seeing new Model Ys,
Yeah.
bunches of new Model Ys.
Uh-huh.
Unbelievable. Yeah, a lot, a
Huh.
lot.
So, well, Elon did say that the new FSD will be perfect at charger station parking. He
Yeah,
just said that today. He also says that it will take care of a lot of edge cases.
yeah.
And Brian Wang says that the 10x parameter increase should increase the number of the miles between disengagements by 3.5 to 5x.
I I'm sure he's got some means of calculating that. I don't. So, I don't disbelieve him. I just don't have any basis for fact. I think, I think we have to be very specific about safety disengagements
Right.
rather than
100%.
disengagements.
Yep.
There are so many voluntary disengagements. Almost every drive that I make ends with a voluntary disengagement
Right. Me too.
because I don't have the patience to, maneuver to the. So anybody taking my statistics, it's all about disengagements, and every drive I have is a disengagement. So every 10 miles, 5 miles when I'm at home, 10 miles when I'm going, a little bit further, and every 150 miles when I'm driving on the freeway is a disengagement.
Right.
Well, what does that statistic tell you?
Right.
Absolutely nothing.
Well, I'm pretty sure that Elon is seeing the numbers and his team are seeing the numbers in a
I
way
don't
that
see.
we can't even imagine.
Yeah,
He'll know. He'll
I
know.
don't I don't think it's possible. How do you know whether disengagement is a safety and disengagement?
Oh,
How?
well, but if so, I would guess partially if people are reporting it and they're reporting the nature of the disengagement and they're looking at that actual.
I've given up reporting now
You're
for
not giving it.
months.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so do a lot of people,
Yes.
I speak to. Look, this whole disengagement thing is it's a red herring. It's a red herring. Um, I've seen so many circumstances where the Waymo car is disengaged or has been, intervened with.
Right.
I I don't know if they even keep these numbers. Anyway, look, I don't believe that disengagement is the statistic. And Gary Black is on and on and
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
about this engagement. I don't think it matters. I think in the next 3 months, within the next 3 months, we're going to see the first riderless, valetless, support driverless robotaxi rides. Of that, I'm convinced.
Mhm.
And then, après le déluge.
I'll have to look that one up, Larry. So,
Well,
so
that's going to be the catastrophe for, it's going to be after the catastrophe
I
for
see.
these
Yes.
rideshare companies.
So on a related subject, since you've driven so many thousands of miles and most of those, many of those miles have been out on the road, you've been going to a lot of superchargers and chargers.
Yeah, and I have to tell you one thing.
Oh,
I select hotels that have charger stations in them because it's very convenient. You
yeah,
plug in, you charge, you don't have to.
right.
Yeah, so all I can tell you is that if it's not a Tesla supercharger, it flat out does not work. It's like they manufacture superchargers with a cable and with a thing and with a display, but they never, ever supply power. They never supply energy. I'm telling you, this is like a 100% observation. If it doesn't have Tesla on the front of the charger, it doesn't work. Period.
So there was
Sorry.
so there was a new report out today.
Yeah.
Was saying that Ford and Rivian, their superchargers apparently are working pretty well. Now they're brand new. They don't have very many of them, but they're saying that the reports so far from their surveys have been that those are working okay. But that the other thing, and this is the one I wanted you to comment on, is that the reporting by people using Tesla chargers, while they're still excellent and top of class, that the numbers are coming down in terms of satisfaction. Are you having any trouble with Tesla chargers?
No, they continue delivering unquestioned support and energy and without any problem at all. I don't understand what they could be complaining about.
I can't.
What is the basis of complaints?
Yeah, they didn't give any kind of a list of what the problems were, and I just went up the coast and back, 600 miles round trip, and I must have charged up 6-7 times. Now maybe not, maybe 5, and I had no trouble with any of the chargers.
I have yet in my lifetime of travel on EVs, lifetime, it's only 5 years, but
right.
In the 5 years of travel on EVs, I have yet to come to a Tesla supercharger and be disappointed.
Yeah.
One time I had to wait in line. I'm sorry, 2 times I had to wait in line. One was after the launch of 𝐓𝐡𝐮5, and I had to wait in line 3 cars or 4 cars worth of them. And another was on a long weekend about 5 years ago, in the very early years, and it was a long weekend, and there was a big line, and we waited. And it was my wife and I, we were traveling. I think we were going actually to visit Boca Chica for the first time. Anyway, I don't remember where we were going, but so in 5 years, I've had to wait twice. Other than that, I have never had a problem. I think I once went to charge and found the charger I was using was out of service. No, that wasn't out of. No, I'm misthinking. I can't think of a disappointing event. I cannot think of a disappointing event in a Tesla charger in 5 years, going on 6 years now. And there's just an amazing number of chargers. Just amazing number of chargers. Driving from Miami, I'm in Orlando tonight. I'm picking up my brother in Orlando, and we're driving up to North Carolina together. We have a big event coming up this week, the whole family's gathering. And I looked at the map from Fort Lauderdale Airport to where I am here in Orlando. There's like 100 chargers. I mean, it's just dot, 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 all the way up.
Yep.
And there's a line on the coast, and there's a line on I-95, and there's a line on this sort of Trans-Florida Freeway, whatever it's called. Amazing.
Yep. Okay, so Cathie Wood just shelled out $13.37 million on August 12th, scooping up shares of Chinese robotaxi upstart Pony AI. Says for Wood, Pony AI might represent the cleanest pure play bet on autonomy. What sets Pony AI apart from the rest is that it's hitting 2 key levers, including fully driverless operation and manufacturing scale. On top of that, it's doing what it's doing is highly conducive, doing in highly conducive places that show a strong appetite there in China. For instance, last month, the company landed a marquee win where it got the green light to run fully driverless, fair charging rides in Shanghai's Pudong core. And that's a major stamp of approval. So hardware costs are coming down. They think that their cars that they're building right now will only cost about 41,000 per vehicle. 41,000 in China. Anyway.
Too high. It's too high. That's not good. They're going to have to get them down quite a lot.
Quite a lot more than that.
I don't know what Elon's plans are to manufacture the Cybercab in China, but I will tell you this. That Cybercab is an absolute winner spinner in China. Absolute winner spinner. I'm convinced of it. Look, Pony AI may be a good bet. I will tell you something. These guys at ARC do a lot of research. I just can't speak highly enough about them. So I have to trust the research that she's done. I think that the general thesis is that there's going to be a winner takes most in most countries, and won't necessarily be the same winner.
Right.
I think Tesla's clearly going to be the winner in the US, and probably going to be a very strong, if not what, I think it's going to be a winner in Germany. I can't believe if they manufacture the Cybercab in China that they won't be a winner, or one of the winners. Will China allow them to be a winner? I think that's the thesis that ARC must be playing with. So, but $13.5 million is not a big bet for them. It's a reasonable size bet, for anybody. But anyway, there you go.
All right. So as we discussed also in the green room, the name of the game right now is AI, in particular embodied AI. Elon said today that for the foreseeable future, the major AI companies will continue to prosper, as will xAI. There's just so much to do. He says, out of real-world AI, Google has the biggest compute and data advantage for now. So currently, they have the highest probability of being the leader. And if you've been listening to All In and BG2, they've both been saying the same thing. They're thinking that Google probably has the lead. What are you thinking?
Google has some structural problems, not with their technology, but how they roll this out into the marketplace, because they have to try and protect their business. Their business is search. If you look at the Google earnings, search earns it all. One way or another, search earns it all, and then they fritter away a lot of the search profits on all the rest of the stuff.
Well, YouTube contributes.
I'm sorry, YouTube as well. No doubt about it. But AI is going to kill search. But if you look at YouTube's profits, it looks big until you look at search's profits. I think that's where I'm at. So I think Google has a structural problem. I don't know sufficiently about it to really be, to do an analysis and to come up with an answer, but I think they have a structural problem. I think we're going to see Google's numbers hit quite shortly, because such a lot of search now is being done at the top of the search page by the AI rather than any of the clicks down below. The numbers are staggering. They're in the 40s or 50% percentile. I know that I've stopped using any click search at all. I haven't done a click search now for months. There's no value in it.
Yeah, I find that there are places and times when I do. Let's say I want a synonym, which today I wanted a synonym, and I went to Google to look for that synonym, or I wanted to.
Why didn't Google just give you that in the AI?
Oh, you mean you didn't go down into search? That's your point.
Yeah, no, I use Google search quite often, less often now than I used to because
Right.
I'm using Grok so much. But I no longer do a search, I do a query.
Yes.
So your synonym returned a
Yeah.
Gemini response instantly,
Right.
and nobody got a click.
Right. Exactly. Yes. True,
Now,
true.
if you did a synonym search 6 months ago,
Mhm.
you got, Webster's dictionary got a click, or some other, guy got a click, but nobody gets a click.
Right.
Well, that's their business. That's what it used to be 110% or 120% of their profit. Now it's less than 100% of their profit, but it's like right up there. They're not actually feeding their money away to the other business. Some of the other businesses are actually quite valuable now, as you said, YouTube, but it pales into insignificance against their search.
On the general stock market, Larry, we talked about this 6 months ago and it didn't happen. But the last 2 days at least look like we might be getting a classic rotation out of the Magnificent Seven and the NASDAQ, the S&P, and into the Dow and the Russell.
Yeah,
Maybe, go ahead.
about 3 months ago, I think I've told you this before. I bought some infrastructure stocks.
Yes, you mentioned that.
And what I've done is I've trimmed a little bit because I found that, some of the targeting I did wasn't as good as it could have been, but some was amazing. I've done so well on like 3 of the counters, another 3 I've kind of pared away now. But they're just zooming up, like they were, internet stocks.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm watching it quite carefully. By the way, we got the announcement today that Sapiens was sold.
That who did?
Sapiens, my old company, was
Oh,
sold to private equity. Yeah,
oh, okay.
it was a big deal.
Wow.
So $1 billion+ $1.5 billion, something like that.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Yeah, I think there's value in. I have to say one thing, Randy. There are many a tears shed over the non-technology stocks moment coming
Well,
over the last 20 years.
and especially over the last 3.
Well, that particularly, but it's been it's a consistent story. It would be worth, there's some guys who are pretty good at these stocks, and it would be worth having, some of them on to talk about it, because we are so unschooled on those stocks. It would be hard, hard to comment. But I think in general, their time is probably here. I don't think it's going to be a long time, but it's here in the meantime.
Yeah, yeah. So this is one of the reasons I've been talking about this for, I guess, 3 weeks now, way before the MSM, MSNBC. I'm sorry, the CNBCs of the world were talking about it. That it seemed to me like we were topping out on the S&P. That when you got 22 and a half times earnings, it might be getting a little a little bit of a reach. But and it was time for a trim, maybe a time for a 5 or 10% pullback. And now multiple people are talking about that. But I'm wondering if instead of a pullback, maybe there's just a little movement of money into some of these others, including the bond market. We finally got some money in the bond market today.
Yeah, the number of disappointments there've been about this theory over the last, actually since 2008, every time people said, "Oh," and I remember when Warren Buffett bought Heinz Kraft. It was like, "Oh, there we go, here we go. Now it's going to." That was a bust. Yeah, I know technology stocks. That's what I understand. I select those. I'm putting myself out on a limb a little bit. I did some studying. I've got some go-to people that I look at their analysis, and I bought a few of them. And I've probably done as well with them as I've done with the rest of my portfolio. Well, that's not true. That's not true, because Nvidia has been so good, and even Tesla has done pretty good.
Yeah.
There were some guys who sold their Tesla famously, and sorry.
Never gonna live my one day out of the market.
Panic. Yeah, panic. We all look, it happens to all of us all the time.
It was not a panic, Larry. Anyway, okay.
It was a panic.
It was a plan. You did the same thing yourself. All right. So we have the Fed next meeting. Now we're 100% certain that the Fed is going to cut either 25 or 50 basis points. Everybody's 100% certain. Are you certain, Larry?
I think Jay Powell is unpredictable on the subject. I don't know if he can hold the line against the rest of the gang. I think the rest of the gang may outweigh him. So yeah, there will be a cut. I mean, we have to get the mortgage rate down. We have to get the mortgage rate down.
Yeah. Well, the good news is we are under 4.25 right now on the 10-year. So I'm sure we are already seeing some softness in the mortgages, because it moves very, very quickly as the 10 years move. Trump went after Solomon of Goldman for being too high in his estimate that 2/3 of the tariff money will get passed on to the consumer. And then we actually have evidence so far that 22% of it might be getting through. But
I think Trump is right. I listen very carefully to Scott Bessent. I listen to Trump a little bit less than I listen to Scott Bessent.
Right.
I've been attacked by people who keep throwing Smoot-Hawley into my face. We won't mention Gary Black's name in the subject, but please don't say the words. But this is not Smoot-Hawley.
Not even close.
This is a situation where the United States, for very good reasons and for poor reasons, has been the whipping boy of the tariff world. Every country in the world has raised tariffs against us, and we've raised, except for one or two very limited cases, we've raised none against them. And more importantly, every country in the world, almost every country, certainly all countries in the world with any money to spend, have also put a lot of non-tariff barriers against the United States. So this is completely different to the Smoot-Hawley situation. This is a situation where we've walked into a trap, and there's only one way out of this trap. Now, who's going to swallow the tariffs? So far, the indications are that Bessent is right.
Yes.
The suppliers have been swallowing the tariffs.
Yep.
Because this market is such a high percentage of the global market, such a high percentage, that they cannot afford to lose the business. And just as we've been in a prisoner's dilemma in dealing with our counterparts, now the rest of the world is in a prisoner's dilemma. They can't not supply us, but they can't really afford to pay up for the tariffs. So there's going to be a percentage of tariffs we're going to end up paying,
right,
and it's going to be passed on to the consumer. But by and large, Scott Bessent, who I've begun to really appreciate, and who's the best Treasury Secretary I think we've ever had, based upon the 4 months of evidence we've had to date, I believe him, and I think that he's right. I think that for the most part, these tariffs are going to be eaten by the vendors.
Now, here was the interesting point on this, Larry, in addition to the point you've already made, is that even Goldman, even Solomon said that the most he's looking at in terms of the CPI is 0.8%,
Oh, no,
saying
that's-
that the underlying amount of CPI by the end of the year would be about 2.5, which I think everybody be thrilled with if it's 2.5 at the end of the year. And he's saying, but you might have to add 0.8 onto that. Under his analysis, his team's analysis, 0.8 would be a nothing burger. And my number is closer to 0.4, and that's what I've been saying all along. But I
Yeah.
said there was a range, 0.4 to 0.8. And I asked Grok the other day, and Grok came up with less than 0.4. So
I think it's less than 0.8 by a long chalk. I think 0.4 is high. You know, that's a lot of money. I think 0.4 is like 120 billion.
well, point is 0.4 on the CPI, not 0.4 of the GDP.
Yeah, okay,
0.4 on the CPI.
0.4 on the CPI. Well, no, 0.4 on the CPI ends up with being a very large percentage, close to that percentage on the GDP.
But it's only on goods.
You're
No,
right.
I'm sorry. No, that's not
It's
right.
not correct. Yeah.
So
Actually, it's negative. The
but
goods
whatever
are negative.
so
Yeah.
Larry, the way the formula, and Grok agreed with my formula, the formula was this: you've got 11% of the economy is goods importation. I was
Right.
using 15%, but that counts services imports, and 4%
But goods imports are falling very dramatically.
but
But okay, yeah.
use 11%, and we have 11%. We have nobody thinks that the overall tariff increase is going to be more than 15%. So you multiply the 15 times the 11, and you get that to be 2 point.
No, 15% of 11 is 1.65.
What did you just say?
11 times 0.15 is 1.65.
65. That's not 2.65, 1.65. I've
Yeah.
done this number so many times that I should have it
Okay.
memorized.
Okay.
Anyway, and then if it turns out to be 2/3 of that, okay, 2/3 of 1.65.
That's very high.
No,
Two-thirds is,
but if it is 2/3 of
yeah,
1.65, it would be
it's
around
1%.
1%, right? And if it's my number, if it's 4.4, then I mean, if it's I'm sorry, if it's like 22% or less, now you're talking about 22 times that 1.65. So you're down around something
0.32, 0.34.
3.4, something like that. So, and that's what Grok agreed with 100% of that. So I think that's the range is 0.35, let's say, to 8. And none of it is, man, it's all price. But even if those numbers turn out to be true, it's really nothing compared to the overall story.
Yeah, I think that the evidence is still out. I mean, the jury is out. The evidence has not all been seen, but one thing's for sure, that the political cost in this country have tried to spin this so bad, so significantly, and have been quite successful, as they always are in the stories they spin, that a lot of people have been cowed by it. So I personally think that I take Besant's point. And look, he's talking Trump's book.
Right.
He has to, he's required to, and he sticks to it. But you have to think he has enormous authority when he speaks with Trump, and Trump really respects him. So I'm taking his numbers, and his numbers are, quite promising.
Yes, and I think that in this particular case, I think that the spin was not always necessarily because they knew what they were talking about and wanted to talk down Trump. I think nobody knew. I think most people had no clue about tariffs and import export and how it works.
Well,
Well,
Goldman
I'm talking about
Goldman do.
now. That's
Yeah.
Goldman,
Yeah, yeah,
as
yeah.
opposed to 6 months ago. Yeah. On another name in the news, EJ Antoni, who I quote all the time on my show, and who I really respect his numbers, has been nominated to take this position with the Bureau of Labor Statistics, which is something you and I have talked about. Thank God we're going to get somebody in there,
Thank God.
hopefully to bring it into this century. But he's getting, of course, all kinds of people saying, "Oh, he's no good, and he's this and he's that." Do you?
Well,
Oh, you hadn't heard? Oh, yes, people are saying that he makes mistakes and that he's totally a total right winger, and he'll just be a lapdog Trump. And
that's political. I mean, his work is extremely good. I mean, it really is. He's been damn sight more accurate than the Labor Department, than the Bureau of Statistics have been. So, I mean, if he's no good, what does that say about the Bureau itself?
right, right.
I mean, just look at the record, his record, compare it to their record, and Bob's your uncle. I mean, how can they again say that?
Yes, I think again, it's probably mostly just finding something to say negative about him, and they probably don't really know much. And who knows, he could have a couple of enemies out there. So
You think?
you think? So speaking of somebody who's brilliant and had a lot of enemies over the years, is a guy who should, like Trump, should have been nominated and received a Nobel Peace Prize. The guy's name is Art Laffer.
Not a Nobel Peace Prize, Nobel
Prize.
Economics Prize.
Economics
Yeah.
Prize. Is Art Laffer, and you had the good fortune of being able to sit down and do one of your Maverick interviews with him. I've only
Maverick Mind.
Maverick Mind. I've only managed to listen to half of it, Larry, but I will definitely finish it tonight. Talk to us. What were did you have a couple of takeaways to share that might encourage people to go listen to the entire 2 hours?
I'm still recovering.
You're still recovering. Okay. You said it was like a fire hose.
I mean, it's like drinking from a fire hose. I mean, I have not used that expression before, but man, that expression meant, it finally came, I understood the image. I mean, he is like, he just doesn't, it just keeps tumbling out. And I mean, we didn't show the entire
Nope.
2+ hours because it was just so much. And but I mean, he just bang, 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 bang. And I mean, some of the stuff that he was talking about, he did the work on it many, many years ago. But the
Right.
point is, he's done the work.
Right.
And he was the architect of this long, enormous, financial recovery.
Yeah.
From the depths of the 1980 recession and almost depression that, Carter and company drove us into.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the architect of the recovery that started with Reagan and ended in the Clinton years, all the way into, H.W. Bush. That was America's finest hours. And then, no, it was George Bush, George W. Bush.
So I was listening, Larry, to the first half, and he was, pointing out that people tend to be subject to financial incentives.
Yeah.
And that seems to be kind of the theme of his life. If
Yeah.
you want to know how somebody's going to act, put a little more coin out there, and most people are going to respond to getting a little more coin. And if you pull away the coin, they're going to tend to go, well, not so much. And that's been my experience in life. I've hired and fired a lot of salespeople in my life, and they seem particularly oriented.
Yes, aren't they though? Yeah. Yeah.
So, and I think I was just listening to the part where he says it works the same with taxes, but that somehow Washington, D.C. and state governments and city governments have never been able to wrap their arms around or their minds around the idea that if you disincentivize somebody by charging them more taxes, that you might get less of whatever they were doing, in much the same way as if you just went in and offered them a little more money or a little less money, as opposed to taxes.
Well, that's the Laffer curve.
That's the Laffer curve. Yes.
You can tax somebody, up to 10, 20% of their income. And as long as they understand that services are being delivered for it, that's fine. Beyond that 20% mark, there's a diminishing return. And then when you get to 30, 40%, it's like you're done. And it's still, the liberal economists will still tell you that it's 70% at the mean, and it starts turning down.
Right.
Well, those economists don't pay 70% tax.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, as he says, look, the Laffer curve, for which he's,
right,
for which he is famous, has been around forever. He didn't invent it. It just exists.
Right.
He just, enunciated it, and it gave it a name. And unfortunately, it's, got all these political connotations. But it's just reality. It's just plain reality. But, it's most interesting. Have you got to the part where he talks about Reagan coming up to him and says, well, some say maybe we shouldn't have the third tax cut. Did you hear that?
Yes.
That's the kernel.
Yeah. Right.
That's the moment that he saved the country.
Right. Yep. Had the third tax cut. So, Larry, on the other side of the coin, you said in the green room before we started that there was that he has some differences with Trump, that they know each other. Trump has talked to him. They've discussed the current economic situation. But what difference would you point out?
I think that I think that if you look at art's work in general, and by the way, this is just surmise on my part. It's not nothing that he said, and it's nothing I've heard Trump say. And he was in the Oval Office, just a few weeks before we met him, and he had this, and he speaks about it. I don't know if you've heard the piece. We talked about his relationship with Trump and how they joke with each other and so on. You'll hear that. It's interesting. But I think that he is ultimately, free trader. And if you hear his remarks about tariffs, I think that he's not as free on board on tariffs. I wanted to push that issue, but I didn't get a chance to ask questions. I don't know if you noticed. I mean, I wasn't asking questions. I said in the introduction, I just, it's like you turned on the hose and bang, that was it, So I would love to have drilled down into that subject, but he moved on from it. He didn't actually take it into deep consideration. And that's what gave me the sense that he and Trump are not exactly aligned.
Right.
But he spoke very highly of Bessent and of the Trump team, by the way. So.
Yeah, well, it's hard not to. I would be shocked if he had any I don't know who the objection would be. I'm so impressed with the team. I think you are as well, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Well, Larry, given the hour, let's go ahead and check the numbers. We've got Tesla a little bit down in the during the day, and another little bit down in the after hours. 338.95. So we're staying above the 338 number, which maybe you've heard, maybe you haven't, was a very special number to everyone. So it's a technical number, Larry. We're supposed to stay above it if we want to keep going up.
Don't talk to me about technicals if you want me to be calm and reserved.
So, all right, and let's see. I mentioned that the bonds had done very well today, at least the direction that we want them to go. Whoops, I just hit the wrong thing here. We've got the bonds. Wow, am I making a mess? Here we go. We've got, we're now down to 4.236. So a little bit more down in the pre-market. So we could be, of course, you know where I want it to be. I want it to be at 3.75. That's been my number for months and months and months. So I keep thinking
If we have this conversation, I say 3.8, you say 3.75.
okay, all right. I'll take your 3.8 if you'll take my 3.75. Okay. We've got the oil prices have settled back down again around 62, $63 a barrel. We're at 62.79.
And it's here we are in the end of summer, $62 of how can that be bad? How can people be talking about Trump with, I mean, how can that be bad?
No, and this is before Friday. And if there's a deal made this weekend, the price of oil is going to go into the 50s.
Right. I mean, how can that be bad?
It's pretty good, pretty good. Natural gas, since I've talked to you, Larry, I don't think we've talked about natural gas, but I didn't realize natural gas can go down to like $2. I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
So we're sitting at 281 right now. So it's got a lot of room there. If we've had a very mild summer, I think you had a pretty hot summer, but we're like, the fourth largest economy in the world here in California, and it's been really, really mild here. So I think,
well, and we haven't had a bad hurricane yet, and
that commonly has a problem. Yeah. All right, we've got gold 3409. So it has been, as we mentioned, all over the place. We've been to 3550 for an all-time high. We went all the way back down to 3300. Now we're back to 3409. You think is going down? Is that still your?
Yeah. I think that we're going to see a Trump dip on gold.
All right. Silver is staying up close to its all-time high, 3850.
Can't hold it.
Can't hold it. It will also come down. Okay.
Yeah.
Copper, on the other hand, of course, after the tariff thing, fell back down to $4.50, and it's been pretty steady for 440, 450 ever since.
440 is not low for copper, and I don't think it's going to go much lower. I think if anything, there's going to be a little bit of upward pressure. There's just huge demand for the product.
Is any of your infrastructure in copper or in precious metal? I mean, sorry, rare earths?
No, all the infrastructure that I'm talking about is just to build factories and to put machines into factories.
Right. I remember that now. I remember you telling me that.
Yeah.
The dollar is mixed. If interest rates are going to come down, that would typically say that the dollar will also come down, right?
Yeah.
So is that what you expect? Is the dollar to be a little soft?
Yeah, dollar's been soft, is going to continue soft, and I think where we'll see the dollar turn, so much depends upon what happens in the Ukraine. Ukraine is a big issue. How these tariffs resolve is a big issue. US-China relationships are a huge issue. So I think a weak dollar is not the end of the earth for us at this point. I think it may actually be quite advantageous. But honestly, I think that by Trump's term end, we're going to see the dollar become quite strong again.
I'm in accord with you. Bitcoin, have you been paying attention today?
Not today.
Up 3,739 to 123,482. So the old all-time high has been obliterated. So what next?
Yeah, I'm still hanging on to my little Bitcoin collection. I mean, such a small percentage of my portfolio, but
I don't know if I have to start reporting every day on Ether, because Kathy Wood did a big thing about Ether either yesterday or today, and she's saying that that's the next up and comer.
Kathy knows, I mean, better than I do. I have no clue.
All right, equities for tomorrow. We've got no movement. It's just call it flat. It's basically nothing happening right now. I mean, literally, you could call it unchanged. No use to go through them one at a time. So, Larry, we've had quite the conversation today about such a range of things. Do you have any final wisdom? Maybe you learned something wise from Laffer that you'd like to share, or maybe you just rather share something wise in general.
I think, having traveled this country, I have to tell you, Florida works, Texas works. It just works. And I think states need to understand what works and what doesn't work. Neither state is perfect. Each have their own imperfections, like unhappy families. Each unhappy family is unhappy in a different way. But I think that this is the road to happy families. So
All right.
I have to say it, just a good place to be.
All right. Okay, Larry, as always, thank you for being on with me. And until next time, to all of you out there, it has been great talking to you.